Do you get overwhelmed by large crowds? I mean, does your heart rate go up? You start to perspire? I mean, you feel really nervous? I'm KYW News Radio medical editor, Dr. Brian McDonough, and I have some tips to try to help you get through this. There have been some big events this summer locally. We had America 250, World Cup, the Major League Baseball All-Star Game. All of these things bring lots of crowds and also lots of opportunities to be in a congested environment with lots of people. Let me give you an example. I was going to the World Cup and decided to start in the city and go down on a subway from Center City right on down to the stadium. I took the local. I was on the local, very little air. It was jam-packed with people. I mean, exciting. People were singing songs of Paraguay and France. It was a real event. However, I noticed it. I was starting to feel a little short of breath. I was really hot as each and every stop continued. I even noticed that the windows were steaming. I also noticed that people were perspiring and water was dropping on me. But what I really noticed was the person next to me, a young lady, was really, really nervous. I'm talking about bordering on an anxiety attack. I spoke to her, kind of talked her through it. And some of the things that I told her in talking her through it are things that I thought might be helpful for you. Here's some examples. When you are someone who is dealing with anxiety, it's a bad situation. You feel your heart rate go up. You might start to sweat. You get very nervous. All of us have experienced that at certain points to one extent or another. But in a heightened situation, it can actually turn into a panic attack. That anxiety gets worse and it can accelerate. So what do you do about it? Well, the first thing you do, I think, is try to center yourself. Make sure you perhaps look at an object, try to read a sign, do something to distract yourself and not think about it. Also, try to to breathe a little easier, to try to relax, try to put yourself in another place. You know, you always hear stories about saying, think you're looking at the ocean or your happy place. Try to do that. In other words, mentally try to prepare yourself. The other thing you have to realize is certain situations, if you're someone prone to anxiety, are going to be tougher for you. And I'm telling you right now, in the summer when it's hot, combined with crowds, combined with what would essentially be a difficulty breathing because the air is somewhat stifling, that can mimic the things that you would experience in an anxiety attack. So you actually might not necessarily be having an anxiety attack. Your body's physiologically doing the exact same thing that would happen in an anxiety attack. So there's a lot of things going on here, but the most important thing is to recognize, if you're in that situation, how you can more or less calm yourself down to try to get through it. If it gets to the point where you think you're going to experience a full-blown panic attack, you try to do all the things that I suggested to calm yourself down. It may get to the point where you can't. And if you can't, at that point, you might need to rely on the people around you, because the people around you need to keep you safe and to try to make sure you don't hurt yourself, for instance, by lashing out or moving quickly or hyperventilating. All of these things can happen. And if you're around someone who is in that situation, if at all possible, the best thing to do is try to get them out of that situation. Now, I talked about a subway example. You can actually pull a cord or get attention so that immediately someone could get there to try to provide more air or to make a difference. If someone this is typical, in the backseat of a car and they feel overwhelmed, stop the car in a safe place and get them out. In other words, try to get the person who is suffering that anxiety attack out of that situation. That's probably the best thing you can do in the emergency to try to make things a little better. And again, the key thing is, if you know you're someone who tends to get more anxious, knows that this is something that will bother you, try not to put yourself in that situation if at all possible. And many people know that. They know that they might get claustrophobic or certain things make them anxious, and they try to avoid those issues. Research and knowing the environment you're going into is really important. For instance, I did a pretty good job. I had water bottles. I knew where I'd be walking. I drank fluids ahead of time. I was wearing proper clothes. I got to the point where I took a train and then went to the subway. I had it all planned out, but I didn't research it enough to realize, why didn't I just take the direct express subway rather than stopping at every stop? It would have been a lot more pleasant. And obviously, research would have helped because there were plenty of subways that were going straight there. I just jumped onto the first available one without thinking about it. So, if you're someone who is more prone to an anxiety attack, it isn't a real issue that I have. But if it was something that you have, that's where you really want to do the research and make sure you're not in that situation. And frankly, it would have been a lot more comfortable ride if I had done the same thing. If you have a medical question, please email me at askdrbrian@kywnewsradio.com. I'm really interested in what you want to talk about.